Aloha, family. This is your boy Gerald. It is the 6th of March, 2023. How is everybody doing? Yeah, I know. I know. Just woke up not too long ago, so I'm in the most organic form you're going to see. But you know what? I'm just fine. Because one thing that I've come to understand is that everything that is meant for you will have progression. So there'll always be a living constant of change. The caveat is being able to find acceptance, to embrace it, to be able to just take a moment to reflect, to understand, to bear witness to you. So, why am I saying this? Just like you see me here, that's me there. Shows change. But this morning, because this past week I had to change up my work schedule, work overnight. And last night, which would be your morning, I had a epiphany moment. I had a couple actually. The first one was allowing myself to be still, to acknowledge what I was witnessing in the sky, referring to seeing how planet Jupiter and Venus were conjunct. About a week ago, they were positioned right under the moon, which was something that I was at all to see. And through this last 7 days, you've seen the conjunct between the two position themselves throughout the sky. But last night, which would be your morning, I had a moment because the beautiful thing about reflection, if you're able to find a still place, a moment where it is truly just silence, all the subconscious that may have been compartmentalized in your mind has a way of resonating to the forward. And while I was performing my professional duties, I kept hearing Tariq Trotter, better known as Black Thought, from the future legendary group known as The Roots. I remember when I first discovered their music. And one of the first songs that I had the pleasure of hearing was a song called Proceed. If you've never heard Proceed, it's off their first album. Just go up in your search engine and just put it in there. But what I found so profound, why I was thinking about that song, was the initial statement he said. And what he said was, just think, what if you could just blink your life away? And at first I was like, why would you want to pretty much erase your existence? And I knew that there was a metaphor underlining, but to lead to it, I needed to put this out to substantiate my point. So I took that moment, jumped on the phone, pulled up my favorite tool to use, um, Yahoo. It's YouTube Music. So I pulled up their archive and I pulled up that album and I pulled the song up. Now, mind you, a lot of the things that you deem as musical or as you deem as classics that came out in the golden age of hip hop, I was very, very fortunate to obtain those when they were on CD format. And even before CD format, other artists had the avenue of using cassette. Some things were only found on vinyl, but not to lose train of thought. So I pull it up and I play it. Just the first 10 seconds. I'll generous, I'll say first 20. And then I decided I didn't want to hear it because I have it in my catalog already. I'm a big admirer of their work. But I got up from my desk. I went outside and the sky was overcast, partly cloudy. The moon was cascading through the clouds. And for a moment I was able to once again see planet the planets of Jupiter and Venus conjunct, and it was bright. It was very bright. And then as the clouds started to move in, it began to dim because of the contrast. So at that time, I was called within myself to pray, to give thanks for the moment of just being able to witness this moment. Because if I'm correct, and I might not be, but if I'm correct, I could have sworn people said that we will never see that in our lifetime again. Our future generations may, but we won't. This was definitely a moment that was get in while you can. So in the midst of that, I started praying. And I started truly opening my spirit up. I'm outside, nobody's there. The you can hear the birds chirping. Um, can't think of the name of the birds, but they're normally you normally see them chasing crabs and stuff when the surf comes in. But I learned something new that when it's time for them to rest, they will fly away from the ocean and find a place that is safe to them. So, in the, as I start to begin my prayer, I'm hearing the chirping, and they do that as a sounding board to each other to let each other know that hey, there's somebody out there, but we're safe. I can assume, and it just constantly throughout the night. But while I was praying, I made a point to give thanks for being able to be relevant in my own space, to actually be able to acknowledge what I was seeing, but more importantly, the safety of bringing me to this point in my life. Why am I saying this? You see, family? Man, I got a broken cigarette. Most High willing, in less than 24 hours, I would have completed 365 days around the sun when it comes to my mortality. Because March 7th, it was the moment that I breathed air and I was born. And it's humbling because I look at where we are, I look at where I am in my life right now, and I can tell you, and millennials, please hear my voice. You know how your elders say, don't waste unnecessary time on the small things? It's very, very true. Because in a blink of an eye, time leaps on. By the time you realize 5 years have passed, by the time you've reflected, another 10 has passed. To the point, you're at the threshold of looking back 2 decades and you're saying, where did all the time go? Now, depending on what your life looks like, you may be grateful, or you may be some that choose to take a position of regret instead of a position of acknowledging something greater. What do I mean by that? See, it's no secret. I told you, I've conveyed this. First of all, what you see is what you get. My walk is my walk. I live by transparency and accountability, but I can't have accountability if I don't acknowledge what it has been and what makes my reality today. And I think the biggest moment for me to truly be able to process is when you look at where you are today and you think about all the people that had some type of impact, either in passing, in moment, or long standing. That's where that parable, people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. But until you truly can have transparency with yourself to understand what is being shown, how are you going to know what has value compared to what is, unfortunately, a distraction? How are you going to be able to truly find comfort in your voice? You realize how many people in today's society, still have yet to find comfort in their voice? So what I mean by that, Gerald? What I mean by that is, no matter what makes the environment, there's no peace there. It's still foreign. It's still under review, and rightfully so. You're supposed to always observe what you choose to partake in or what you invest in. What has access to your timeline? Because until you understand what is seeking access to your timeline, how will you know the impact of what effect it'll have on your mortality as a whole? See, one of the narratives I remember almost a decade ago, there was a big push for embracing the mentality of the YOLO mindset. YOLO, YOLO. You live only once. And with that, that spawned a kind of false, courageous, or rebellious outlook on life. And boy, some people bit onto that hook, line, and sinker. Some was able to eventually see the bait and shake themselves free, while others were carried to and fro in their life. So, to go back to what Black Thought was rhyming about in the song Proceed, and if you've never heard it, take a pull up the roots in the search engine and pull up the song Proceed. Excuse me. And just listen to it. And depending on your perspective, you'll see various gems or nuggets of knowledge embedded in there based off what your mindset is today, the relevance of it today. For some, it'll go straight over your head. For others, it will be literally checking off the blocks, checking off the boxes in your psyche. And you're like, you know what? I get it. I understand. Wow, I know what they were talking about. Now, the main point that he said when he initiated that song was that statement, just think, what if you could blink your life away? So in other words, if you had the ability to change the reality of your life and all that has been shown, would you? And the question pondered is, why? I pondered that for a minute because, granted, everybody has seasons. Some high, some low, some gray, and some unknown. But at the end of the day, it's still your life. It still has relevance. It still requires protection and investment. The work still has to be done. Why? As I've always said, when you took your first breath, you were given natural gifts and talents. That was a divine gift bestowed by the Most High. But from the female placement, or the female, or the fair of the less, the fair of the two, my queens, you were given one of the greatest gifts ever, and that was nurturement. Because your development will have a direct impact not only on how your life is going to be reflected back to you, but those who are going to come through you. Who am I talking to? See, society is convinced a lot of impressionable women, young women, that your vanity is all you need. But all that is done has caused a discourse because what matters, what has always mattered, was never the reflection, but it was what was in you that deserved the protection. No, I'm not talking about what is found between your legs. I'm found by association. What I'm referring to is your spiritual essence and the ability that the more that you come into your own, the more powerful you become because that was part of the promise. And for some, unfortunately, it gets too heavy. For others, they simply shut down. And you see it. It's no secret, I've always echoed, ain't nothing more disappointing is to see a young woman, a young lady, without her smile. Now, we could turn around and say, hey, well, that's the bed they lie on. Or we could turn around and say, well, if the parents made it more about their development and not themselves, that could be a reflection of that. But at the end of the day, no one has the right to choose their parents. But everybody has the right to become one. Who am I talking to? So you look at today's society, and there's been so much misinformation put out there. There's been so much effort to not only divide you from your own community, your own diaspora, your own intuitive understanding. And everything has been played out down to, I hate to say it, down to the last cent because it's economic. And economics has more weight than community. And I saw this comedian, real quick. Um, he made a point that was very, very spot on. He said, you know, I don't understand why our elders have a mindset of, and I'm paraphrasing, that the younger generation are not worthy. When in actuality, the elders before them also looked upon them as unworthy, and the cycle was never broke. Isn't that kind of ironic? Why is that cycle still playing out today? Why is it that we're continuing to embrace behaviors that do not represent our best self? So when I think about the song Proceed, I got to ask this: what will it take for you to go forward? Because that's what proceed means, to move, movement, transition, so you can position yourself to have the best life of your dreams. And get this, get this, get this, get this. Did you know that when you make that decision to do so, the result is going to be unmeasurable. Did you know that? It will smash all expectations that you could even conceptualize. Why? Because that's your story. But the truth of the matter is, you have some that won't. They'll get to a point and all the signs will be shown. Everything. There will be a point of reflection, time and time again, afforded to them. And they still will not heed. Can I be, because I got to reach the person at the level they're at, okay? And this might be you. Wherever you are in your life, if you have come to that conclusion that whatever that has access to your life, it does not fit, it does not work, there's no rationale for its placement, why are you committed still to it? Why is your loyalty still there? Is it because it's fear of the unknown, which is only emotional insecurity? Or is it by chance because this is all you've known, your loyalty to the pattern is unwavering? But at what price? Your sanity? Your health? Because look in 2023, there are so many people walking around with ailments. And when you look at the common denominator, it is all derivative of mental health issues. What I mean by that, if you look deeper, it has something to do with the nervous system and the manifestation of how it has on your life. You'll see the correlation. You see it. You shouldn't be at a state where your regimen is, I gotta take these 15 pills, I gotta watch how I maneuver now, I gotta make sure all my P's and Q's are all aligned. Now mind you, this is no disrespect, but even the Most High said everything that mankind needs is found from the earth. So if that's the truth, don't you think you're worth the investment of doing the research? Just as a secondary option. Because there's no secret. There's no financial gain in cures. So it's your responsibility that you fortify what we know as your temple, your body, your wholeness, everything about you. You make sure that everything is truly mind, body, spirit. But I always reflect, but last night I was like, when he said that in that lyric, and he said, Just think, what if you, what if you, just think, what if you could just blink your life away? How many people would do it, and for what reason? Because that can be looked at twofold. One, there is the fact that you know what you need and truly deserve, or because there's so much sorrow and regret. If you had a way to strip it out of your life, you would do that in a New York minute. But there's a way you can do the second one. First of all, if you're walking around with disappointment, despair, insecurities, anguish, fear, they only have relevance in your life until you decide to acknowledge they're in your life. What do I mean by that? You see, we only use only 6% of our beloved brain. Now, mind you, people are going to say, oh, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay, if I don't know what I'm talking about, why are you having conversations inside your mind? Why are things popping up in your psyche when you ain't ready to deal? Why? Because it's time for you to deal. It's time for you to take note. It is time for you to sidestep that. Just like I always would say, it's time to sidestep the negative and take the road less traveled. Hence, that sidestep portion is mine. That statement was a poem written by Robert Frost. But the real question is, look at yourself right now, where you are right now, and honestly pose that question to yourself. Do you like how your life has become and what it has shown you? When you pose that question, what's happening is you're allowing yourself to be vulnerable. But more importantly, what is occurring is you're allowing your true self to claim the transparency that comes from your spirit. Because every question that you could fathom inside your mind, there's an answer to it. And it usually comes when you least expect it, usually when you are still, proverbially. That's why you hear people that suffer from severe mental health issues. They always scream about, I got these voices in my head. You know why they got the voices in their head? To some, they may say, that's your conscience. But truly, that's your discernment saying, hey, you deserve better. You don't have to accept that. What's keeping you from pivoting? What's keeping you from taking a different action, a different choice, a different route? Why? Because your spirit, your consciousness will always present what's best for you. But see, we have free will. See, when you were born on this planet, that was the one thing that was given. Most High, you, before you was conceived, you was spirit, and in turn, There were things within the spiritual realm that were told to you that you were, and in agreement, these were things that you were supposed to fulfill. You know, and here's the thing, somebody's getting goosebumps right now because you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because when you least, when you try to not even think about it, it pops up and lets you know like a neon sign. Don't forget this. Maybe that's the reason why you keep having those dreams. And some, depending on how intense it is, you might think that you're being taunted. You might think that is a nightmare, but really that is nothing but your subconscious giving you the way. This is what you need to do. Why are you in 2023 not resting like you need to, not taking care of yourself like you need to, not finding comfort in your own being? I get it. A lot of that is artificially done. AI. How do you think some of these narratives come about? You think they magically just, oh, I'm just going to talk about this today? No. It is manifested through some type of form of influence. And all it is done is it takes a physical form by way of thought. But what was a thought? Before a thought, there was the word. Where did that word come from? How did that word get pushed into your mind? Because without that word, it would not develop into a thought, and that thought would not develop into a behavior, and that behavior only is become a pattern which results in effect. Let that sink in for some of y'all. Some of y'all think, oh, he don't know what he's talking about. Let me tell you something. I never thought I would be physically in a position of saying, wow, I'm in my 50s. Yeah, I'm 50s. I'll be 54 tomorrow. I think, well, I think my mom messed up the paperwork. I really do, but that's what my birth certificate says. Do I feel it? No, not hardly. Other than a couple of years back when I found out about my heart, and then I thought about it. I said, well, slowly but surely, I was dying slow because I had all these burdens in my heart. Because you're looking at a man that once was a little boy that only wanted validation, that only wanted to feel protected, or only wanted to be loved. And like so many children, and I still believe this too. Now, you might want to hold on. You might want to hold on to this, but I want you to take this into. Just think about this. When you look at the social communities that exist, whatever descriptive labeling that you should choose, you know what the one commonality is this? No matter what it is, one, a child, an animal are born innocent. They're pure. It is not until through behavior shown does the ability to mimic what is being shown. Now imagine this. Imagine we'll say now an adolescence. Puberty really hasn't hit. And even though remember when you were in your early teens, nobody could tell you nothing. Now the fact may be you may have been a, a genius. Now this is where I was talking about those gifts and talents. There's still a room inside your psyche that requires you to embrace your intuitiveness, knowledge, and you, unbeknownst to you, you embrace what is always shown. Now, here's my point. You know why people gravitate in the communities that they choose? You can pick anyone you want. It was because whoever was the influence or the community that was able to have access, they were the first ones to show them what love looked like. Did you hear me? It is no secret, and it's a fact, that the human body gives off two frequencies, electrical frequencies. One is love, and one is fear. Love has a high pitch, fear has a low dormant pitch. So, from a scientific standpoint, think about how you felt when someone showed you compassion. Think about how you felt when they showed you safety. And think about how you felt when it was not there. Now, depending on who the influencer or the community of said influencer was, good or bad, it is natural for a person that is impressionable to gravitate to the environment that they feel the most safe in or can relate to. Remember the old parable? They used to use it sometimes in movies, and you would show a small child that's really impressionable or something. The first time they saw their football idol or whatever, or the first time they saw that materialistic item, may it be a car or a house or what that image looked like. What did that impressionable person say, that young person say? I want to be just like you when I grow up. So, imagine if that image had been held hostage, had been tainted, and if downright perverted. A person will always be impressionable to the influence until they're able to see and understand themselves. That's where that nomadic lifestyle comes from, family. And you know what happens with a nomadic lifestyle? You rob yourself of time. And guess what? There's no accountability there either. It's easy to show you what you want to see, but am I going to show you what you need? That is why today's communities can't have the dialogue. They won't. They would rather defend their position than have the conversation that, when you look at it, connects us all. Now, at the end of the day, it's your life. But I'm a firm proponent of this. You deserve to have the life of your dreams the moment you decide to love yourself. Because when you decide to love yourself, you know what's going to happen? Your conscience is going to take its rightful place. Your self-worth is going to initiate a checks and balance position. And a lot of things that you did not know will be revealed to you. The kicker is, will you be able to witness or understand what is being shown? Sometimes it happens until you do. And it can be painful. It can be downright scary to some people. But if you leave it to society to be the step parent, even though I know they say it takes a village to raise a child, but you can't raise somebody else until you're able to raise yourself. To have an inner knowing of yourself. And guess what? I hate to say it. I know within the first 7 minutes I probably lost the majority of you. But this is for the intended person. If you're ready to stop suffering, if you're tired of running, if you're ready to finally stop making excuses for what you don't have, congratulations. Because now the first brick has been laid down that will be the road to you. It's been there all along. But I will say this. You know, no matter what your doctrine is, we all can agree this. The Most High has always said, be true to thyself. But he also said, you do not have because you do not ask. And the only way you can ask, it comes from your heart. So if you're not taking care of that beloved heart, how are you protecting that foundation? Do you realize how many people are suffering in silence because of failed relationships and the effects of said decisions? Still to this day. And then what happens, depending on how adamant they are, it is unfortunately passed on to the children, only for them to be stunted, which is the most selfish thing you could ever do to your offspring. That's where you heard back historically, you would hear the term, I'm going to take that to my grave. Well, you're not going to rest in peace. Because at the end of the day, when that time comes, everything that you have done, everything that you have said, everything that was hidden, that was unjust, will be played before you. And you got to account for it then. So why wait till you've transitioned when you can make peace with it Now, it's just kind of hypocritical when you think about it, family, because everybody says they want to do the work, but it's lip service. It's because they want that instantaneous gratification. Well, you can't build a you can't build a timeless classic if you don't invest in it. You just like Michelangelo when he sculpted David, he had to break off the rough edges. He had to smooth the rough patches, the rough spots. But he was committed to the process. Now, you can do like a lot of people and keep up with the mindset of to get over someone is to get under someone. I'm going to tell you what, those same people that have that mindset, they just fooling themselves. And nothing good comes out of that. And those end up being the same person, the same people that end up saying, well, coulda, woulda, shoulda. And then they deflect it and saying, well, it wasn't me, it was them the whole time. But guess what? Let's just say it was them the whole time. How would they have access to you if you weren't there? It would have no impact. It would not be you. Would it be someone else if that was to be? Because yes, there are people on this planet with the sole purpose of doing the devil's will. Kill, steal, destroy. It's the world we're in. But if you're self-sabotaging yourself knowingly, all they gotta do is sit back and keep the same mindset they've had the whole time and project, see, I told you. See, look, they ain't fill in the blank. And use you. We are what we attract. So if we are what we attract, why won't you attract your happiness? Why won't you focus on letting the real you be seen? Because when you unapologetically make that decision to do so, be prepared. Life as you know it is going to be removed. If it was not rightfully owned, or if it was not rightfully earned, it will fall from you. Please believe that. So while people are saying, well, you know what? The good guy finishes last. And that's the most truest statement you could ever say. You know why? Because they know the difference between what they need compared to what they want. And when it comes to you, you're not supposed to settle. You're supposed to prepare. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Now, you can end up being like everybody else, taking a position to fit someone else's social algorithm. But at the end of the day, ask yourself this: how are you sleeping at night? Are you happy? What's your happiness look like? And if you're truly happy, are you at peace? Because those things I just described should be woven into your self-worth. That makes you priceless. So while the people in the cheap seats, the people want to keep up with the Joneses, and the people that want to pretty much proverbially show their teeth, don't worry about them. Even Janet Jackson said it best with the lyric of "That's the way love goes," like a moth to a flame burned by the fire, attracted to the fire. Well, you know what I'm talking about. That light is your spirit. That's you. That's what separates you from everybody else. You are the exception to the matter of fact, Kings. If you never heard that song, the Temptations made that song called "I'm the Exception to the Rule." But that can be applied to both men and women. If you've never heard that song, go in your search bar, pull up the Temptations, "I'm the Exception to the Rule." Listen to it. Tell me, and you can't tell me that is not relevant today, just like how it was then and tomorrow, because socially that is what's going on and it will continue to go on. Why? Because until you decide to plant your feet, survey your environment, speak your truth, you won't know what was needed, but was there the whole time. And you know what? I'm going to shut this off because I done been on here almost now. That's why you're hearing so many women today and men today complaining about what this one didn't do and what that one didn't do, and using economic descriptive terms, but neither one of them will take a position of transparency and say, well, you know what? I didn't do this. I should have done that. How about forgiving yourself? You realize how many people are stuck because of their pride and ego? But behind closed doors, they're thirsting. They have a thirst to want to feel safe, to feel whole, to feel relevant. Being relevant does not mean disrespect. It doesn't. But what do I know? I'm just glad that I can't believe I'm going to be 54 tomorrow. I can't believe that. But I still feel like I'm in my 20s. Don't get it twisted. And I'm going to show you too, because I'm about to flip my health. I'm going to get rid of some bad distractions, these cigarettes and stuff, and watch what turning the hands of time is. I know I've said it before. I'm going to do so. I'm not playing. 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 And there are going to be some people, I already know, when the seeds start to blossom, they're going to be like, hey, I just so happen. No. If they meant to be in your life, they will. Wish you well. I wish you best. And also, forgive those that have transgressed. But more importantly, you can't forgive those that have wronged you until you forgive yourself for the wrong you've done. That's why I will always say, the energy you put out is the energy return. It's just the minute. It's just the amount of time of how it's going to be paid out, so the validation can be learned. Be blessed.